Hi, so we are hoping to take photographs throughout the event, so if any teachers could just let us know if any kids don't have consent to be in photographs, that would be great. Thank you.
Westmorland and Furness Young People's Question Time. Before we start, there are some housekeeping notices. The toilets are just located on the corridor outside the Grasmere room. There are no scheduled fire alarm tests for today, so if you hear the alarm, please follow instructions from your teachers and the forum staff. The muster point is in front of the town hall. If you have your mobile phone with you, you are welcome to photograph store information, but please don't take photographs of other students without consent, and please turn them to silent before we begin. Included in your programme is an evaluation form, which we'd be grateful if you could fill out and submit at the front desk before you leave. All completed forms will be entered into a drawer for a Loftus shop voucher. And now onto our main event. You will see from your programme that this event has been developed in response to the results of the Make Your Mark campaign conducted earlier this year. We've invited onto our panel Alison Hooper from CDEC, Neil Parkin from Cumbria Police Force, Suzanne Caldwell from the Chamber of Commerce, Katrina Stevens, who is Director of Public Health of Westmorland and Furness, and Alison Hatcher, who is Assistant Chief Executive of Westmorland and Furness. Our questions this afternoon have been developed with contributions from the 19,000 young people across our council area. Our first question comes from Chloe in Penrith.
Alright, we've got a microphone.
Weekend and evening jobs in hospitality are popular around routes to employment for young people. We have noticed that there do not seem to be a huge number of restaurants in our towns. What might be done to encourage more hospitality businesses to invest in our area?
Hi, Suzanne, we'll come to you first.
Hi, yeah, that's a really good question, and to be honest, it's a challenging one. It is a good route into employment. I think you'd be surprised the number of people who actually their first part-time job in particular while at school has been in hospitality, and certainly we find that when we're talking to people. There certainly is much more that could be done in terms of getting more restaurants and indeed other hospitality businesses in town centres. It's a difficult one, partly because of the difficulties of actually finding full-time staff in those, and partly just because of the real challenges of running those sorts of businesses and the costs involved and having sufficient customers. So part of that is actually about making our towns much more vibrant places and trying to encourage more people to actually live right in town centres rather than out on the periphery, and that is really helpful in encouraging more people in, and then that enables more hospitality businesses to grow. I think there's lots of other great initiatives going around the county as well in terms of getting more university and college students so forth into town centres, and that certainly helps too. But what I would say, I think finally the thing we really need to look at is how do we put the right grants and support and incentives in there to help businesses, particularly with the real challenges they've got with changes to national minimum wage, employees' national insurance. It really is getting really hard out there for a lot of particularly hospitality businesses, and they do need particular help. But what I would say is, although it's a great route into employment, and then a lot of people move out of it, it's really worth considering hospitality as well as a long-term career. It really can be a great career choice, and if you look at things like the Tourism Talent Hub that's run by Cumbria Tourism, you can find out more about the great opportunities. Particularly in this sector, you can get into management and into promotion much more quickly than in a lot of sectors, and contrary to popular belief, there are real career paths, good pay, and opportunities to work not just all over the country but all over the world.
We want to hear from young people about the themes that would be really important to cover at that summit. So if green careers is something that you're really interested in and would like to find out more, come and see us at our table after the question time.
Thank you very much. Is there any young people in the audience who'd like to make any comments related to this question? No? Okay, I think we'll move on. So, on to our second question. This one comes from Phoebe from Barrow. If you just stand up so the microphone can come to you.
Across the regions, it feels like there is an increase in boarded up buildings, such as houses and shops. In order to reduce the need for building on green and brown belt sites, could these boarded up premises be used to create affordable housing or meeting places for young people? And if not, what other suggestions would the panel have for these unused spaces?
Alison, you can see that.
Yeah, I think this is a great question. I really do, because you can go visit almost every town, even villages and cities, and you see it right across the country. And from COVID, people are shopping online, also you're getting shops that are not able to survive on the high street, and they're becoming empty and boarded up and a bit of an eyesore. But there's actually an opportunity there. So I think that this question is really focused on community and people, but also the planet as well, because you mentioned green and brownfield sites, and that's something that's really important to look at as far as planning. And if these places are there, why not use them? So thinking through this, I think the short answer is yes, they should be used, but it's how. And the how is important to work through with the people who are responsible for them, the owners, but also local council and the local community. And also thinking about if they are going to be used, what kind of environmental impact might that have? Because if it's in the centre of town, how is it accessible? If it's out, how is it accessible? Because people will travel. I think one of the ideas I think would be useful is to have a register of these empty properties that maybe the council or an LA officer would oversee, and local people could report in for those that are coming, or looking at how they are falling into disrepair. But even more than that is how they can be used in a creative way. And I have seen in other communities where they're used for a temporary basis with the permission of the owner, where they can do pop-up things. So you could have a pop-up cafe for young people as a hub. You could have a pop-up, say, community hairdressers, where people can go for a haircut on that particular day if it's a long way to travel. You can use it for charities. People have used that as pop-up areas. But I think the most important thing is really about the repurposing, so they just don't sit empty. So they're not aesthetically an eyesore, but also they don't become dangerous or looking to be a magnet for antisocial behaviour or anything like that. So I think this particular question is really important because it's growing, the number of boarded up areas. So I think it's about being creative as a community as to how we can repurpose them, and maybe temporarily or more long term.
Specifically as young people, how can we focus on problems we focus on?
Speak to the local council, come to Youth Climate Summit in the summer, because if you want to actually explore how this could be repurposed, I could work with you and put your case together to present. Because the thing about bringing about change, it's not just about saying this isn't great, it's about coming up with ideas to change it for the better for the future. So SEDEC would certainly be very interested in talking to other people about that.
Thank you very much. Would any other panel members like to speak on this? Yeah, Alison?
Yeah, I'll respond on the basis that Alison kept saying speak to you, council. I feel obliged.
We're both Alison, so like.
I have to respond. And I noticed the question was from somebody who's living in Barrow. Whilst there are empty properties across Westmorland and Furness, there is a
those sort of properties back into use. It also adds to the vibrancy of our town centres, and it encourages and enables more businesses, whether that's retail, hospitality businesses, or whatever. It does help more businesses to be viable and to start up, and in turn fills even more in the space. So it's an absolute win-win.
Thank you very much. Do any young people have any comments raised since this question?
I can think of, there's two prime examples of run-down buildings. It is Bow Island, there's been, actually you've got the, I don't know if it was a hospital by the BAE car park, and then there's one by Bow Island Primary School. There's been like a lot of speculation about that, like over like the past, how many years, like past 10 years, that you said you're going to do something about it, but nothing's been done. But I understand that you've been talking about like finding the facilities to do that. But because it's been such a big thing, but you still haven't done anything, like, is there any comments on that?
I don't know the specific details of it, but I suspect the reason that nothing's been done about it is a lack of funding and resource to be able to do it, which goes back to my point before about there is now investment being committed, and we need to make sure that we're using that. Now that won't be able to, 200 million sounds like a lot, but it won't go that far to being able to tackle every site environment we want to see repurposed, but it will make a significant contribution to enabling some functions to be brought back into use, and there needs to be some prioritisation of which ones are the most important.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to comment on that?
Just that CDEC will be there to support young people if you wanted to get involved in the consultation and putting a case together for specific areas that you've identified, which I think is really important, because if there are areas in your community that you think need working on or need repurposing, then that will be part of your case, and we can do that with you.
Thank you very much. Is there one more comment on there related to the question?
There is a lack of shops and facilities in our town centre, which makes people not want to spend time there. What plans do you have to improve our town centre?
So, do you want me to read that?
Anyone can go?
So, there is already some plans in place for improvements to the town centre. So you will have seen during COVID there was quite a bit of investment in trying to put in what was described as meantime uses to encourage people to come into town centres with outdoor tables and seating. But more significantly than that, there was £16 million investment secured from the government to remodel the market halls next door to where we are today. And we've seen that that's now boarded up and been vacated in order to do a complete overhaul of the market and make it an attractive place for people to go shopping, and also providing the food and drink offer that helps attract people into the downtown centre for the weekend. Other things that are starting to be developed about improvements to forms and building area now, really making this second areas to narrow in and the cultural part of the town. But again, there's going to be further consultation on that and opportunities for you to engage in it, and I'm sure Alison and colleagues will support that.
Thank you very much. I think we'll move on to our next question now. So our third question is from Sophie from Ascot. If you let's stand up for the microphone.
It is recognised that keeping active is good for both our mental and physical health. However, the love for sports and engaging in physical exercise often decreases when young people reach secondary school age. Young people we have talked to have said that uniform requirements set by schools, often including garments which are either too short, tight, or the design makes them feel self-conscious and affects their body image. This is both males and females. What do the panel suggest could be a solution to keeping young people engaged in physical activity?
As
Sure, so thank you, Sophie. It's a brilliant question, and when I heard it, it took me right back to being at school myself, and all the issues that you talked about, I can well remember from then. Sort of outfits that we had to wear for gymnastics that looked like we were trying to take part in the Olympics, or in athletics at the Olympics, and just really weren't what anyone felt comfortable in. But it was last century that I was at school, and I think we can do a lot better now. The thing I'd say on this is I think it's a really important point, and I think you've got a really strong case to make about why physical activity is so important, and why being able to take part in it in a way that feels comfortable to you is important. So I would really encourage you to kind of get together and work with your schools, whether that's through your school council or through the youth council, to be really clear about what's important to you on this and why. And you know, if we can help with that as a team, whether that's about us maybe developing some guidelines or some advice that would be helpful, we'd be really, really happy to do that. There are some other considerations that come into play as well, which I think we need to consider. So with some sports, there are obviously safety requirements that means some things can and can't be worn. And the other element of this, I think, is a wider point about making sport and physical activity accessible, and how can we make sure that what people are asked to wear is affordable, so that the cost of it doesn't become a barrier for people. Your question raised the issue of body image as well. Again, really, really important issue, and some of you might have seen things like the campaign that's called This Girl Can, references girls, but I think it's equally important to boys. And that campaign's really about saying that actually being active is for everyone. It doesn't matter what you look like or what you want to wear. The important thing is that you are able to get out and do something that you enjoy and can feel comfortable doing so. So if there's things that we can work with you on to help everyone feel more comfortable, then we're really keen to do that.
Thank you. I know that a lot of people working on this issue have experienced a lot of resistance from their schools to changing things like uniform policies. What can you do to help with that?
So it's probably one of those issues where there are no easy answers, but I think it's about listening and understanding what the reasons are, and looking at where we can find the compromises and the solutions that work for everyone. Some things it won't be possible to change overnight, but you know, the uniform doesn't stay the same through generations, so there will always be opportunities where we can make changes.
Thank you very much. And anyone else from the panel like to comment on this issue?
Yeah, a bit like Katrina,